So welcome to How to Live in Love. My name is Alexander Bell, and these talks are in partnership with the book of the same name, How to Live in Love, written by myself and available for free on my website, which is alexanderbell.org. So this talk is called Arrogance and Humility. So if we can first just understand what is humility and what is arrogance, to simplify it as much as I possibly can. Arrogance is the attitude of believing we have nothing to learn from anybody else. That someone we meet, there's nothing we can learn from them, and no one has anything to teach us. But humility, on the other hand, believes there is always something to learn from every person you meet. So these two different approaches to life and to the people you meet, essentially, that everyone has something you can learn. Everyone has something they can teach you. And if you just stay in this space of humility, then you can benefit from somebody else's wisdom or someone else's experience. But arrogance kind of cuts us off from other people and stops us being open to them. And of course, when we're not open to another human being, there's nothing we can receive from them. We can't learn from them. Our mind is shut to them, to their mind, to their wisdom. Our mind is closed, so we're not willing to receive any new information. And so these are essentially the two states of arrogance and humility. And of course we know that humility is good, we know that humility is important, because it's how we continue to grow. We cannot grow if we close our mind down. Our mind cannot continue to expand, because our mind is meant to continually expand, never-endingly expand, and let in more and more light. But this can only happen if we stay in humility, if our mind stays in humility, stays open. And then it can continue to dissolve its boundaries, continue to grow, continue to expand with the wisdom that is everywhere in every human being, and be enriched by everything around us. When our mind is open, then our heart is open, and we can be continually enriched by everything we encounter, by the people we encounter. But that cannot happen if we're in a state of arrogance, because our heart is closed in arrogance. Our mind is closed and our heart is closed. And we think we've arrived somewhere already. We think we don't need anything else. We think we've got what we need. We think we can't be taught anything. And it's a very tricky trap. It's very easy to get stuck in this place of arrogance, because the ego gets itself built up to a point where it thinks it's wise and knowledgeable, and it gets this sense of intellectual pride. And of course, it doesn't want that. It doesn't want that image of intellectual self-satisfaction to be destroyed in any way, and so it has to believe it's superior. The ego makes us feel like we're superior, and that's what arrogance is. And so essentially we stop growing and we stagnate. So when we stop growing, when we stop learning, then we will start to stagnate. And it can happen in fear, it can happen in self-pity, it can happen in pain and sadness, and it can happen in arrogance, that the human spirit starts to stagnate. And we feel a greater sense of frustration in our heart, greater anger. We start to feel more angry because frustration means that our energy isn't flowing as it should be. We're not growing. If we're not growing, we're not expanding and not enriching our soul and becoming a more loving person, then we will experience frustration, because we will be disconnected from our sense of creativity as well. Creativity is all about expansion and growth, personal and the growth of the heart, the growth of the spirit, the growth of the mind. And so creatively, we'll feel frustrated as well. And that will lead to anger, resentment, bitterness. We won't be enjoying our life. We'll be essentially just trying to control everything. Because when joy is lost, then human beings seek to control things so that they can experience a state of security. When we lose our joy, then we seek something else to make us feel good. And it's usually a sense of security or a sense of power. That's the substitute for the joy which we should be feeling when we're open, receptive, humble, creative. That's the state. That's our natural state of being. That joyful openness. Yet when we're preventing ourselves being open, and we're preventing ourselves receiving any new information, and we think that we're the master of our life, then essentially we become a more controlling person, and we experience less joy, and we experience more of the mere pleasures that can come from being in control, which is essentially power. Power is the main, reward from being in control. And power is a drug. It's very important to understand that power, not necessarily power over other people, but the sense of power in your own life, being in control, that is a drug. And that drug gets stronger, of course, when it involves other people, when we feel like we're controlling other people, when we can manipulate other people to get exactly what we want. When we can get exactly what we want when we want it, then that's the sense of power and control. That's the sense of power we feel from being in control, because we just get what we want exactly when we want it. But life is not like that. A life when we are open-hearted and receptive and kind of in tune with life's how life works, when we're more flexible to life's unpredictable ways, then we don't need control. We're kind of surrendered to the unpredictability of life, and more joy comes that way, because life is full of wonderful surprises. However, when we're in control, then there are no wonderful surprises. There are only frustrations that come when we can't control everything. So we get these wonderful, joyful surprises when we let go of control, and life brings us unexpected things. But when we're in control, then we're trying to control everything to be the way we think it should be, in the way that will bring us satisfaction. And then when that doesn't happen, then we experience frustration, because we can't control everything. So there's two different ways of living life: through controlling and then disappointment from not being able to control, or through surrendering. And then there's no expectation. When we surrender, there's no expectation of life to give us this or that. We're open. We're flexible. We're open to what life wants to bring us. And we see anything that does come, any unexpected, surprises that do come, we see the beauty in them. We see the gift that they bring to us, because we have our mind is open to receive something new, something that we're not expecting. And those things are always a wonderful surprise. That's life. Life is a wonderful, magnificent adventure full of surprises when you let go of being in control. And so to come back to the kind of core theme of this talk, that humility is the key to this. Humility is the key to letting go. And because the surprises often come from other people. People bring us wisdom, people bring us the goodness of their heart. And we can't feel that, by the way. We can't feel the goodness of someone else's heart when we're arrogant. And that's the greatest shame of all, that we get in our ivory towers of self-importance and, self-wisdom, self-knowledge, our intellectual vanity. We get into our ivory towers thinking, oh, well, I know it all and I've got to teach everybody, all my wisdom, my knowledge. And then we completely miss the gifts that come from other people's hearts when we're in that state. Completely. We cannot receive them whatsoever, because we're just seeing ourselves as the giver of wisdom, or the giver of light, or the giver of knowledge, or the one who knows most. And then our ego is in control, and the ego is essentially orchestrating everything that we experience, everything we think, everything we see. The ego is giving us our reality, our experience of life from that place of arrogance. So when we let go of that, we open up, and we're ready for wisdom to come from other people, from anywhere, from any experience we're having. We're willing to learn. We're willing to say, okay, I don't know everything. I've got a lot to improve. I can improve my character. I can improve my selfishness, or I can improve my state of selflessness. I can improve my generosity. I can improve how patient I am, how loving I am. I can improve, and I want help to improve. That's perfect humility. Having that state where you know that you can improve in your character. You know you can become a more loving person, and you're open to help from anything in life, anyone, any human being, even if it's who you think is your worst enemy. If you're willing to receive help from any direction to become a more loving, forgiving, and understanding person, that's humility. And that's a beautiful state to be in, because virtually guarantees that you'll avoid conflict with other people. You'll avoid ego clashes. You'll avoid pain. You'll avoid aggression. And you'll learn so much more. You'll be open. You'll be open to the richness of life, the richness of love, or the richness of God even, through any experience, any interaction, even with, an animal, with your pet, for example. It can be with anything. You can learn. You can be taught by life through anything. But of course, our greatest teachings often come from other people who are meant to come into our life, who are meant to bring us something, who we're meant to learn from. But we won't see that unless we are in a state of humility, willing to learn, willing to receive, willing to listen. So I'll finish this talk here. I just want to say thank you for tuning in, thank you for listening, and remember you can get my free book called How to Live in Love at my website alexanderbell.org, where you'll also find all the music I've composed over the past 20 years, all available for free. And you can read hundreds of my articles that I've written over the past 5 years, learn about healing, nutrition, lots of interesting videos, and lots of other wonderful things, all at alexanderbell.org. So, thanks for listening. I wish you well, and God bless you.